just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to an emergency podcast. And I put up the bat signal and the guru just came running. He just started running down the hallway. I was like, mate, I didn't even ask you to come here. And he was like, fucking rugby league. He was just yelling rugby league as he ran down the hallway. Mate, the great Roo, he's here ready to go. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, pushing an old lady over in the hall. Had to get here. Mate, I was sitting there last night, it all broke, and I just in our work, you just sort of go, fuck yeah.
Oh, mate. As a pig at the trough of the content gods, I am just lapping this up, especially when it's not my club. So, first of all, let's get the disclaimer out of the way. Manly fans, I definitely do. I empathise with you. I really, really do. I understand. I remember when I found out that David Fafita was leaving the Broncos, devastating. When we lost Reece Walsh, when you find out Sam Walker gets signed by the Roosters. So I get it. I really do. I really do. So, mate, regardless of how much we go in and out of details or whether you agree on, Manly side or DCE side, guys, we totally empathise. It's a tough day. He's a club legend and we get it. This is all brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Grab your Grumpy Coffee, beautiful blends. And also brought to you by the Bloke Club. Join the Bloke Club at www.bloke.club. And you automatically go in the draw to win a Mazda BT50 plus prizes every month. The first month is $2,000. All right, let's get straight into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the order of events plus also the quotes and everything. We're going to go through the whole thing and then we are going to then break it down and give our opinion, okay? Speculation has been growing about the future of DCE in the past few weeks. Danny Wilder broke the story last night that DCE would not be at the club in 2026. Within hours of that news breaking, Manly boss revealed during the NRL 360 they plan to offer DCE a 2-year deal on Tuesday to ensure he finishes at Brookvale. It's understood that the deal to be in the vicinity of about $1.5 million over 2 years. Here are some of the quotes said to AAP. We've been internally discussing a 2-year deal for Daly. His form this year warrants a 2-year deal. His start to the year has been second to none, and we want him to be a one-team player. I've got a note here with you, correct. So this is a really important quote. Given Daly's form, he warranted the offer. It's an important quote to remember. There's another quote to remember. The first formal offer from Manly was this morning. So Tuesday, that was the first formal offer from Manly. Okay, the chairman was quoted saying, we want him to be a one-club player and win another competition with us. DCE appeared on 100% footy last night, and when asked about the 2-year deal, DCE said, respectfully, no, he will not be taking it up. He said, I've been sleeping on this decision since December, talking to my family. We are okay with the decision. We are at peace with it. We understand that it's not going to make everyone happy. There will be a lot of Manly fans really upset. I understand this. But as a family and a friendship group, we have been aware of this for a while now, and we're content with the decision. Cherry Evans said prior to Monday he had not received an offer from the Seagulls and denied the club had tried to lowball him. Instead, the Manly captain claimed he'd gauged interest from other clubs late last year, and when no rivals tabled offers to Seagulls, the Seagulls did not feel the need to either. So now we've moved to this morning. We did make him an offer yesterday with his manager. It was a 2-year offer. This is the CEO of Manly. It was a 2-year offer, so it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. We haven't lowballed. The first formal offer was this morning, but during the ongoing discussions, there was no lowballing at all. There's no such thing as lowball figure. We wouldn't do that. We respect Daly too much. Mestrov went off to confirm the club had discussed a 1-year extension with Cherry Evans in October, as the Manly halfback claimed on Monday night, but added nothing was formally tabled. Mestrov said the 36-year-old still not sure what he's going to be doing and held out hope there may be a change of heart. Never say never. Let's hope he reconsiders. We put it to him and his manager, and we'll wait for his answer back. And also, here's some really interesting quotes. We've got plans of other players moving positions. We've got plans of other players moving positions. He also mentioned 2 young halves at the club at the moment, but I thought the really important one was, and he as he said it, he goes, but we don't want to talk about that right now, so I think he kind of let that slip. We've got plans of other players moving positions. So there you have it. There's all the quotes. There's all the back and forths. Me personally, I think it's a club trying to wrangle back the narrative, and I think DCE, his quote basically saying earlier yesterday, so this is the quote from DCE yesterday on NRL 100% footy. There was no formal offers from any other club at the end of 2024. So in turn, Manly said that they weren't going to offer anything unless another club offered anything. So those offers didn't come through from other clubs. So Manly didn't need to offer anything else, which is fine. No animosity here. That gave me a lot of comfort to say, I think the best decision here is for me to be able to sit back and take my time this year. That quote says it all for me. I'll get my thoughts after the great Garino gives his.
Mate, I think plain and simple, I think Manly have made their decision. I think they don't see Daly Cherry Evans there in the future. Whether it's the right or wrong decision, I tend to think it's the wrong decision for now. But, mate, I think it's pretty evident. Like they just said there, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. You rang up NRL 360 in an ad break. It's one hell of a great impersonation of a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, and also, like, he goes, we were speaking to his manager yesterday. It's like, that sounds knee-jerk. That was yesterday.
Mate, when DC was on last night, he was sitting next to Danny White, though, right? Mm. So he's broke the story the day before. Like, this has been planned out by Daly because I assume he feels like he's not getting treated properly by Manly, which by the signs of that, he's not. Has Manly been living under a rock and not seen how the Adam Reynolds situation played out?
You know what I think happened? I think they didn't expect him to go to the public like this. I think they expected to be able to control the narrative. And the most interesting thing about this, I know a lot of the time, people think I'm so pro player, pro player. But here is a perfect example of how clubs try to control the narrative. You watch DCE, and he did it brilliantly. And I don't know whether he planned in regards to like it's been something that he's been planning for a long time. I actually think it's a pretty short plan. But what I like about DC is it was all snap decisions of, all right, I'm going to tell a journalist, it's going to be put into the media. I'm going to be on an NRL show within an hours of it leaking. It doesn't give the Manly Seagulls enough time to manipulate the narrative because, as I said, you saw it in real time, a club trying to claw back the narrative of, no, we have offered DC, because this is what would have happened. If DCE had stayed quiet and he had moved on, Manly would have said, no, we did offer him a 2-year deal. We did offer him a 2-year deal. An NRL CEO calling in NRL 360 during an ad break to let them know that they have now officially offered a 2-year deal is clear evidence of a club trying to claw back the narrative. And I get it. They're a business. They're trying to look as good as possible with a club legend. In my opinion, though, I just think you'd look much stronger by saying, yep, we had a conversation with DC earlier this year. We believe that now is the time to part ways. He's a club legend, but he is 36. We're trying to free up salary cap to bring other people in and keep other players. Rather than this very weird, unfortunately, Manly, I think this is one of the closest cases we could get to a player winning a narrative that we've ever seen.
For sure. And, mate, I think that when you look around world sport, like, we are 10 or 15 years behind. Like, you look at the basketball, the NFL over in America, like, the players all lead the narratives. They've got total control of it. Finally, a player stood up and gone, no, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get dragged through the mud. I'm not going to look like I'm dogging the football team. Yep. I'm going to stand up, deliver it as it is. And it sent a club into absolute panic stations. As you just said, if Manly want to make the decision they're going to move off a 36-year-old halfback, I don't agree with it. I can make sense of it.
I can too. He's 36 and he's taken up 750, 800K a year salary cap.
I can 100% make sense of it. If you want to go a step further, and I love DCE, I think he's a great footballer. Like, he's $1 million halfback that's won 4 finals games in the last 10 years. There's evidence there for Manly to say, no, we're moving in another direction.
And you've got guys like Lehigh coming through that, who I don't know if you'd be more pissed if you lost Lehigh, but I tell you what, a lot of Manly fans would be pissed if they lost Lehigh to keep DCE.
Yeah.
And a lot of fans would, if it was presented to them of guys, it's either keep Homole on this big deal and keep Lehigh or keep DCE. I think fans would... I'm with you, mate. I don't agree with it. I think you should have kept DCE as long as he wanted.
Yeah.
But I think at least it's a reasonable stance. At the moment, I don't think they have a reasonable stance. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
If you just come out and be honest with it, there's a chance it's looked on as a club that made a bad decision. Now you're a club that's kind of tried to dog a legend player. You've lost the faith of your fan base. Your fan base is beside themselves all of a sudden.
And I think, so this is, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but this is what I think has happened. I think the DCE went into that negotiation and said, I want 2 years. And they've basically gone, have you got any offers anywhere else? And this is the issue when, don't get me wrong, we need suits in rugby league because they're good at business. Business, you need to be good at business. And I always give Manly credit for how small a club they are, the fact that they are, they're up there with the heavyweights at the moment. Like, let's just imagine we've got Storm, Penrith, and Broncos as top 3 sides. Maybe Sharks, but like we'll just say Storm, Penrith, and Broncos. Like, Manly are half the size of that club, and yet they are fighting with heavyweights. So I think they deserve a lot of credit in that regard. But this is a problem when you treat rugby league too much like a business, because it's the reason why we love rugby league so much, is because it is this special, unique melding of business and sport. And so when a club legend walks in, you don't treat him like a business negotiation. You treat him like a club legend. If he walks in and says, give me 2 years, and he's still playing bloody good footy, you give him 2 years. Or you say to him, mate, unfortunately we can't do that, and let's do a press conference together. You know, DCE felt, he wanted 2 years. We felt we needed to move forward. I think there would have been a lot of strength seen in that. Anyway, so this is what I reckon happened. DCE walked in, said, I want 2 years. They said, have you got any other offers from other clubs? That's when I think DCE, like, the idea that he hadn't been given a formal offer from other clubs, I think that's because DCE didn't ask for a formal offer. I think he wanted to stay at Manly, but he just kind of seen what was out there, came back to them and said, look, I think I want to stay for 2 more years. I think Manly turned around and said, nah, not going to offer it to you. And that's where I went. In December is when DCE made this decision. So let's get the timelines correct. DCE didn't wake up last week and start going, oh, I'm not going to be here. It was in December. And when were the negotiations happening? Around, November, December. And so I reckon when they just were like treating DCE like another business like deal is when he said, I'm being disrespected here. And even if they do turn around and offer me now, I'm not gonna take it because I've been disrespected. And then that's what I think's happened. Even
the wording there, mate, nothing was formally tabled. I think the key word is formally.
Yeah.
Tell me there's not clubs in the NRL like... Let's go back to December. The landscape was very, very different. Everyone was trying to get Ben Hunt to their club. The Dolphins were leading the charge for that. They had a lot of money to spend on it. They didn't get him. Dolphins have got money in their cap there. They want an experienced ball player. All of a sudden, the most experienced ball player is available. It might have not have been a formal offer, but I'm confident in saying the Dolphins would take him in a heartbeat.
Well, I reckon no formal offers came in from other clubs because DCE said don't, I want to stay.
Ideally, I want to be with Manly.
Yeah.
But the way that this has all been handled... it's just, mate, there's just so many layers to it, and I think there are so many points where Manly could have handled this so much better. Mate, I reckon there's every chance if they sit down with DC and have this conversation, mate, I reckon part of that would have DC thinking, okay, I've had a good run here. It's been fantastic. I'm a club legend. Maybe I do just call it a day. But I think this has put a bad taste in his mouth.
For sure. Like, he's a club legend, and to be treated as a business deal, like a business deal, he was quoted saying, Manly said, we are not offering you anything unless someone else offers you something. Like, think about how disrespectful that is to a club legend. At least the Rabbitohs were like, look, we're only going to do a 1 year deal because you've got a few niggly injuries. And like, even though I don't agree with the way the Rabbitohs handle, at least they were pretty firm on their like, okay, we do have a deal for you, but it's only going to be a 1 year deal. This, like, to say to a club legend, we are only offering you something if someone else does. Wow.
On top of that as well, you just mentioned that, they let slip till they mentioned however you want to look at it. We've got guys that can move positions. Who's going to be the halfback next year? If I'm DC, I'm looking around going, hold on. I've watched Brooks play halfback for 10 years, not be able to do it at a high click. I've brought him next to me. He's playing the best footy he's ever played at 5'8". And you guys are telling me, no, I'm not needed here for the next 2 years?
Mate, bizarre. So bizarre. I think Manly have bungled this, unfortunately. And I think, as I said, you've seen in real time how they try to control the narrative. And by coming on 360 and saying, oh, yes, we do have a 2 year deal for him, to try to placate fans and be like, because now the narrative from Manly from here on out will be like, no, we offered him 2 years. We wanted him to stay. And like, even in the press conference, like the CEO kept saying, no, he's a club legend. If he wants to stay, he can stay. And imagine if you're DC watching that going, hang on a sec, you literally told me in December that you're not offering me anything unless another club offers me something. And now you're up here saying, no, I can stay as long as I want and I'm a club legend and you'll all do anything I need. That's why DCE made the decision, like, no matter what they offer me, I'm not staying. Like, I've been disrespected here.
I even, like, at about 8 o'clock last night, I was texting a few mates and they sort of said to me, what are you expecting to see on the show tonight? And I sort of went, I reckon DCE will play a straight bat. That's what he's done in the past. I love that he just went, fuck it.
Nah, just he said what happened.
Here it is.
Yeah, this is.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and like he didn't spell it out like exactly, but I mean he said enough where most intelligent people go, okay, I see what's happened here.
Yeah, and DCE knows he's sitting there looking around the NRL going, okay, there's 16 other teams out there. 2, 3 of them maybe have a halfback that they'd rather over me. That's dance.
Mate, like the fact that he lined this all up so quickly is a masterstroke. Because if he let's say he had have dropped that news and then waited till Thursday to go on live TV, they would have controlled the narrative by then. By then, Manly would have gone into PR spin for a whole week, leaking this, leaking that. But he's gone, no, I'm not going to give him time. I'm not going to time.
I love that somewhere, probably late last week, I'm sure he would have had to have let a media manager know that he was going on that show, that he was going to feature on that. And they just would have had no idea the tsunami that was about to hit Manly.
Because they would have had to have known that he was going on NRL on 9.
They would have had to have been cleared by 3 to 4 people or whatever.
Surely. I mean, you'd have to assume so, unless he's just got so much weight. He's just gone, no, I'm just going to go on.
See, that's interesting because I just assumed that he just did that.
Usually stuff like that, it's got to, I mean.
I know usually. I'm 100% aware. But this isn't a usual situation. So that's interesting.
There's every chance he hasn't cleared it, but that would be usual protocol.
Yeah, usual protocol. I'm just going to go on this. Yeah, sweet, no worries. Especially as a club captain as well. But yeah, so let me be really clear. I understand why Manly are trying to wrangle back the narrative. They are a business. The brand of Manly matters. You know, the brand, the administration, they're all trying to do their job and protect the imagery of Manly. But unfortunately, this is the bed that they made. Like I'd feel a bit of sympathy. I mean, I still do feel a bit of sympathy for all the people because like there's a bunch of people at Manly right now that don't have the power to make the decision of whether they don't keep or do keep DCE. And so like, don't be too harsh on the entire administration. I think if you're going to be critical of the people in key positions that have the power to make this decision.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes you see situations like this and you think like, oh, you know, maybe there's like a disconnect with the players. Maybe he's on the outside. But I can tell you, I was at a golf day 3 months ago. He's still the most popular guy in the room.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw some of the social medias of some of the players that were devastated and some of the younger players that were Debo. You know, so yeah, I think that the concern I know that they've denied it, but the concern I have is like, you know, and they kept trying to ask the CEO, like, why does he want to leave? Like, why does he want to leave? And I guess the concern will be is that, I mean, you can't say clearly he doesn't get along with certain people there, but like clearly they have a very different vision of what they think the future of Manly should be. I will say the positive for Manly is, you know, a lot of the time if a coach and a player, or a CEO and a player or whatever have, you know, tension, and the CEO has come out and denied any tension, but let's just assume that there was, that the key actually isn't, it doesn't matter whether the CEO and the player get along. All that matters is, does the playing group get along? That's usually a key of like whether a team's going to go well or not well. And the good thing for Manly is like, whether it's true or not true, you know, that they get along or don't get along in regards to like the CEO or DCE or Seabowl or whatever, it's almost irrelevant. What is relevant for this year, for their charge, is do the playing group still, you know, admire, respect and love DCE? And like they absolutely do. So I think that's a real positive for Manly, is like he hasn't lost a playing group. It's more just a different in vision for what the direction of the club is moving forward between DCE and the CEO. I think that's the key. You know, because like at the end of the day, the CEO is the one that makes that decision of whether. I mean, you have to. He's the chief executive officer. Like he's the guy that signs everything off. So, yeah.
Have you heard
times.
from Seabold at all?
I don't think so. Can you check, Matty? I do not think so. And so yeah, it's hard. Like I know there's been journalists that have been like, oh, you know, there's tension between, you know, the coach and DCE or the CEO and DCE. Like I always try not to comment on stuff like that because you just don't know. Unless you know for sure. Like you might have heard this or heard that, but unless you know for sure, it's an unfair narrative to kind of put out there if it's not true, because you just don't know. You just don't know. Now, in regards to the whole situation, I did find it super interesting that he said we got plans of other players moving positions. Now, for quite a while, I think it was Hammy or was it Sandor? I remember sitting across from Hammy and I was going, when Lehigh re-signed, and I was going deep into that, going like, mate, this is really weird. He could get big contracts somewhere else. Like he signed a bill. Like, is he going to sit on the wing for like 3 years? Then there was the leak about Tommy Trbojevic playing 6. And then there was the leak about DCE retiring. I think this is weeks and weeks ago. And I said, that is all so weird. And then when I see the CEO say we've got players that can move position, that's when I go, maybe that, Tommy to 6, Lehigh to fullback could have been legit.
I think it was the Monday show we spoke about it. I think we had this
even further back. Further back, I was talking about it. It was when the Lehigh was announced that he'd re-signed. And I could see Hammy going, mate, you are thinking way too deeply. It was either Hammy or Sandor where he was sitting there going, mate, you are thinking way too deeply about this. But it was Monday where we were talking about, who could move where and what could happen. But I think that's what Manly are planning. Like, I think that's the plan.
Well, if it's not, what else are they going to do? They've got... they've got young guys in this system like Large, and they've got Walsh there who are young guys, but they're completely untested. Completely untested, and you want them to step into the boots of a 300 first grader? Like, it has to be Brooks. He has to be the halfback, which means you have to make a makeshift 5'8", which it sounds like it'll be Turbo. That's reading between the lines. That's what I take away from this.
Far out.
Nothing from Seabold yet, but the CEO, Tony Mossos, was forced to answer a question of a journo today saying, is there any rift between you and Seabold? So that's as far as we've gotten.
Yeah, and he said, no, there's not.
He said no.
He said, categorically, there's no rift, there's no tension.
Yep.
Would you assume, I think I know the answer to this, but if Manly's made this decision, Seabold has to be a part of that, right?
He has to be.
He has to be. There's no way he can't be.
And there were journalists on, I think, NRL on 9 or maybe Fox, one of the two, that said that they had heard that they don't necessarily, and that's the journalist saying that. I'm not saying that. And that's why I said, unless you know for sure, it's just not worth putting out there, I don't think.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is that it is a fair question of, why does he want to leave? Why is he so... what is the reason that DCE in December is essentially no matter what Manly offer me, I'm gone? What is the answer to that question? Because it's not like, listen, if you offer me what I want, I'll stay. It's basically reading between the lines, it seemed like DCE was saying, no matter what they offer me, I'm gone. I will not be playing here at Manly. And when he was asked on NRL 100% footy or whatever, he didn't say, I just want a fresh start. He didn't say, I want to challenge myself. There was none of that. It was genuinely just no, I just will not.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah, and that's the question I want the answer to. What happened where a club legend is essentially saying, no matter what you after a certain point in December, he made the choice of no matter what you offer me, I'm gone.
And I mean, when you have a look around the league, if you're a halfback, realistically, I think there's 5 to 6 teams that, in my opinion, can win a comp this year. Manly's probably in that group.
Yep.
If I'm DCE on that right edge, I've got Olakuatu, arguably the best back row in rugby league outside me. I've got arguably the best fullback out the back of me. The spot couldn't get much better, realistically. There's nowhere he's going to move that I think that's going to improve, unless he's going to Melbourne, Penrith.
Which he's not.
He's not.
Yeah.
Maybe the Sharks. He's also not going there.
Yeah.
It's not going to get better than what it is right now for
That's
DCE.
a great point. There's no club he's going to that's going to be in a better position to win a premiership.
People are saying the Roosters. Fuck. I get it from the Roosters, but if they've spent all these years to decide Sam Walker's the guy and then they play him at 5'8" for a year or two with DCE, what is going on?
The only thing I could think with the Roosters is they're going, it's almost like a patch until Kalen Ponga comes free on the market, maybe.
Potentially, but
it's still a patch.
So if I'm DCE, I don't think going to the Roosters, people he'll go to the Roosters, he'll win a comp, then he'll retire. Winning comps aren't that fucking easy.
And also, I don't think the Roosters are in a position to win comps in the next year.
I don't think they are, regardless.
Yeah.
If I'm DCE, I think for the last year or two,
be a part of a rebuild of a club.
Be part of a rebuild. Go partner Isaiah Cartella. Fucking set him up for life. Make yourself stupid money to finish your career. You're already a legend. You've won a comp. You've got a Clive Churchill. I think Origin over the last few years is what has separated DCE from everyone else. And once again, this is me saying it, not a competitor like DCE, but go out and get that money somewhere. If Manly's disrespected you and they've made the bed the way they have, I would go somewhere and just be part of something else.
Yeah, and also you're going to leave a legacy, you to help Isaiah Katoa in his last couple of years, and if he goes on to be what we think Isaiah Katoa can be, you've left a legacy, like a really strong legacy in the NRL. So I'm with you, mate. If I'm DCE or advising DCE or whatever, mate, go be a part of the Dolphins. You know, he grew up essentially in Redcliffe, pretty sure.
He did, yeah. He moved away when he was like 12 years old. So that's the other thing. Like, he's a Dolphins junior, and I get the idea of one club player. It's so special. And he's always going to be a Manly player.
Oh, yeah.
When was the last time you heard about someone talk about Ricky Stewart as a Bulldog?
Yeah,
Michael Jordan as a Washington Wizard. Like, the last few years, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
It's what you achieve and what you do.
It's the only time that does happen is in the Cooper Cronk situation where he wins 2 premierships and people go kind of associated with the Roosters. But you're right.
Like, if Nathan Hindmarsh moved clubs for a year, and
no one's going to. Yeah.
Does anyone care?
No. I mean, people don't think Watmouth's a bloody an eel.
No one thinks David Peachy's a rabbiter.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So it's only very rare circumstances, and it's essentially winning premierships that can hinge that. But I'm with you, mate.
Like, he's walking back into Brookvale. He's walking into anything Manly for the rest of his life as an absolute hero.
Yep.
They'll probably like him more now.
Yeah, it's going to be. I tell you what, the target that is now on Manly administration, unfortunately, like the pressure has just been ramped up to a bazillion. You know, because I don't think a lot of Manly fans are buying oh no, we offered him 2-year deal. Like, it's so strange how they've handled it. So strange.
And I think fans are the least of their worries. I think it's the other guys in the group you need to be aware of. I almost think Manly are at the point where they sort of should just come out and say, hey, we fucking butchered this. We've got it wrong. I think they're just digging a hole further and further, and you've seen DCE already step out and talk. Who knows what else he's going to say?
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle it, especially after their administration was put under the spotlight 3 years ago when they sacked Des Hasler. Like, that was a complete shit show. And now they've dug another hole for themselves.
And what I just don't get is, like, if this had been amicable, because they keep saying, like, everything's amicable and, you know, everything's good, everything's fine, they would have done a joint press conference saying this is what's happening. But your club leader, club legend, arguably greatest ever player, at least one of them, has gone, you know, on NRL 100% footy and just gone, like, there's no jointness about this at all. There's no unity. There's no doing it together. And so, I really believe that Manly probably would have been better off just having a really strong stance about the direction of the club and going, guys, we love DCE. The reason we didn't offer him a contract is because he's 36. We have some really good young guys coming through. At some stage, we have to begin to build towards the future. Whereas this, like, weird middle ground of, like, you know, calling in and, like, when that happened, did you see it happen live?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. Buzz Rothfield going, I've just spoken to the Manly Seagulls and they are letting me know that he has an official offer of 2 years. And I've never seen anything like it.
And then you get that quote there, like, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. Like, they're just digging it deeper and deeper. I don't think they're doing themselves any favours. And as you said, mate, like, it looks like a shit show right now. They've been a great club for a long time. I just think they've got this completely wrong. They're never going to get the narrative back on this. It's like, the only way to get the narrative back on it is to throw more and more dirt on DCE, which your players are not going to respect and your fans are not going to respect.
And also, I think that DCE, unfortunately, has the truth on his side. Like, I think what DCE is saying happened. Like, this idea that Manly, because, like, what I'm not understanding is in one breath Manly is saying we were kind of blindsided. On the other breath, they're saying we've been in constant communication. Like you clearly, but then if you weren't blindsided, how come this 2-year offer didn't come earlier? And also, even on NRL, even when DCE was pushed on, do you want to play again? He essentially said, yeah, I love rugby league and I want to continue playing. The only thing he said, and if you got to listen closely, the only thing he said is, I don't want to make that decision right now. I'm going to make that decision a little bit later. But as in where he's going to play next year. But the decision of playing on, I felt like he made it pretty clear that he's going to play on. I didn't, when he was asked by Cam Smith, like, you know, basically, will you play on? He was like, yeah, I do want to play on pretty much. But the only thing is I want time to make the decision. I would be shocked if he retires next year. He's still going to play Origin this year.
Mate, I was about to say, he hasn't even retired from Origin. Like, you normally have players, they have that 2-year swan song where they concentrate on club footy. He's not even at that point yet. And I was at this golf day a few months ago with him, and I sort of asked the question, like, you're 36, and mate, he looked at me as if I disrespected him by asking him if he's going to keep playing. Like, I turned to Kat after and went, fuck, I felt terrible then because he's feeling fine and ready to go, and his football backs that up.
Mate, his football, he's arguably playing the best he's ever played.
And you know what? Like, I think 10, 15 years ago, the idea of re-signing a guy that's 36 for 2 years was absolutely absurd. But the game has changed. The needle has completely moved on this sort of stuff. And, you know, Cam Smith was probably the guy that made us think, oh, okay, maybe guys can go longer. He looks better than Cam Smith to me at the age he's at. When you think about the way that he moves, the position, it's not as much toll on his body as what Cam Smith was going through. Like, why not? How much longer can he go?
And halves also aren't bashed around the way they used to be. Like, Thurston was getting jammed every time he passed a friggin' ball.
Just confirmation that he was born in Redcliffe. His first junior club was Redcliffe Dolphins, and he moved to Mackay at age 12.
Okay, let's have a serious conversation about where we think he should land. Because I think we all would be shocked if he actually retires. I don't think he's retiring.
I hope he doesn't retire.
I don't think he's retiring. I would be, unless a really bad injury happens in this year, I would be shocked beyond belief if he retires.
I think if there was retirement chat, then this whole situation would have been done behind closed doors.
Yeah.
There was part of me last night at 6 or 7 o'clock that thought, okay, maybe he's ready to retire, but if someone offers him dumb money, he will take it. But the more context that's come out around this stuff with Manly, it looks more and more likely he is keen to play on.
Yeah, it looks. I genuinely, and again, I don't know for a fact, but I would be shocked if the timeline wasn't. He began negotiations in November, and also for some people that are like, frustrated with DCE, like he's off contract. Like November 1 last year, he could speak to any club he wanted to. So this idea that he's not allowed to do what he's legally allowed to do is bizarre. Like he's allowed to speak to whoever he wants. Anyway, I reckon when that happened, he went to Manly initially, probably felt a really bit of a cold shoulder, then thought, okay, look, maybe they're playing a bit of hardball. I've been here before. Went out, had a couple of chats to a few clubs, came back to Manly and said, listen, like, I'm going to go if you don't start putting something on the table. That's when Manly probably responded. And again, I'm speculating, guys, but that's when I think Manly responded and said what DCE said, which was, we are not going to offer you anything unless another club does. And that's when I think he made the decision of like, okay, like that's the day I think he left Manly.
Yeah, and I think that, as you said at the start, I'm sure Manly played hardball at the start, which they should do. They've got 29 other spots to manage on that roster, a salary cap to deal with. They should be trying to get the best value they can. But then once he's gone out and no formal offer, I'm pretty confident he's got plenty of interest from clubs. And clubs are willing to take the State of Origin captain to their club. I don't have to draw you a picture on that. But for then Manly to still not back down, and to only offer that second year once he's about to go on TV and spill the beans.
When he's about 60, when it's already been released in the media that he will not be at Manly next year, they then go on and say, we're going to make him an offer. It's just, it doesn't add up. And as I said, I think Manly probably would have been better off. And it's easy to say in hindsight, because I understand why Manly panicked and, went all out and trying to wrangle back the narrative. But I think they probably would have been better off of just being completely honest about the direction of the club. Easy for me to say. I'm not in there. I'm not the one getting all the pressure from the fans. But I just felt like it was so far gone, they just had no chance of wrangling it back. He'd outplayed them, unfortunately. Like DCE outplayed the Manly administration.
I'd pay more money than I'm willing to admit to hear the phone call before the 1 to 360.
As in their phone call to his manager?
Their internal phone call.
Mate.
Fuck, we've got 60 minutes. What are we doing?
Yeah, wow. It would have been enough. Yeah, and they didn't have long to respond. As I said, when it comes to controlling the narrative and actually getting his side of the story out, it's the best I've ever seen. I've never seen a club be so on the back foot ever when controlling the narrative. But in saying that, I don't think there's many players that have the cachet and respect that DCE does across the board to be able to have that big play in their pocket.
I think this will start to change it, though.
I hope so.
And mate, you think about in 2 years' time, we're going to have 2 new franchises looking to sign 30 blokes from other clubs.
Wow. And
I think DCE started a bit of a snowball here that I think players will start to realise I've got to control it.
Yeah.
I'm what the reality is with star players like DCE, he doesn't need clubs. Clubs need him.
Yeah.
And I think it's the thinking's been in reverse for the last 120 years, and I think this will be what starts to change it. Same as other sports around the world.
I hope so. All I want is the truth. Whenever any of these situations happen, whether it's the club in the right or the player in the right, I just want the truth of what happened. The thing that frustrates me the most is when I know players are sitting back, not able to say anything, watching stories be leaked that are painting them in a bad light, and they're sitting there going, mate, that's not even what happened. That's literally not what happened. And so, as I said, the super interesting thing about this as a fan is you watched in real time the way clubs can desperately try to control narratives. We've never seen it before. It played out all in the media. Usually, this is all behind closed doors of, there's a leak story to a journo, and that journalist has said, oh, no, actually, they did offer him a 2-year deal. I've got the contract right in front of me. And all the context is missing or whatever. So I do enjoy that that part of it. Okay, let's talk about in regards to where he lands. So you've got the Roosters. Look, I think the Roosters are in such a position that if it was a 2-year deal, I still would just do it, just because like they got money and who else is out there, and I'm just trying to build something. Because if they don't do it, it's like, who else is going to come to that club in the next year or two that can improve them?
Yeah, I get where you come from. Like, I think Roosters are a better club tomorrow if DCE is there. There's no denying
that. And that's why I'm looking at it. Like, they've got money to spend. They're in a position where, like, nothing's really happening. And it seems like there is interest in Kalen Ponga in 2028, which is ages away. And I think that they just go, you know what? Like, okay, yes, it is weird. We gave Sam Walker the keys, but now DCE, you know, all that kind of stuff. I just think they're a better club. And if I'm Trent Robinson and I'm going, listen, I don't want to go into another year without filling this roster out with stars. I just do it. However, from a perspective of DCE, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth. I just don't think they're close enough to a premiership for it to be worth it. However, the Dolphins, it's a different situation. He has the connection to Redcliffe. He grew up there. He can leave a legacy. Now, you could argue maybe he leaves a legacy with Sam Walker. I would argue Sam Walker is too far along for that to have too many fingerprints on his game. I feel like, he's in his 5th year or something like that of NRL now?
2020. Yep.
So, whereas we've got Katoa in his 2nd or 3rd. So I just think legacy-wise, he's probably going to have more impact at Redcliffe than Roosters. I don't think we're ever going to be looking back and going, wow, DCE changed the Roosters. You could look back and be like, the signing to Redcliffe genuinely changed that club.
I agree. I'll be really disappointed if he doesn't end up with the Dolphins. I feel like they've been so close on so many guys, and so many guys have gone there and just used them to bump up their value elsewhere. I just think DCE would be so good for Katoa. Like, for me, it'd be a win for rugby league if he goes there.
Be poetic with the Gold Coast thing that happened all those years ago, and they were a relatively new club.
Yeah, he ends up an hour down the road. Like, it'd just be fantastic. It'd be unreal for Tongan Rugby League. If you're a Tongan Rugby League fan, you should be beside yourself with this. I think it'll be so good. He goes back to his junior club. That's where he finishes. The Dolphins are a club that everyone likes. Like, you can't not like the Dolphins and respect what the Dolphins have done and whatnot. So I think that'd be the best way for him to finish. I think, mate, even if you go, and like you see it with Cronk, like I think a lot of people even, he left Melbourne, went to the Roosters, won. Like, it's not fair, but I think that when you talk about legacy and all that, like, I almost think a comp at the Roosters for a lot of people, I don't think they look at it the same as achieving things at other clubs. It's not fair, but I think it is just the reality of the situation.
The lay of the land kind of thing.
I have this argument all the time with him, other people about Cooper Cronk, and sort of like, he went from a stacked team to another stacked team. And it's like, let's not pretend like winning comps is easy by any means, but I think the influence and the impact he could have as the Queensland captain by going to DCE and starting to guide their next halfback for the next 10 years at a Queensland club, I think that's a better spot for him.
And I think would it heal some old wounds from Queensland fans potentially? I know it's
been healed. He's just I think Origin has changed.
I'm with you, but I do think there are still some Queensland fans that bring that up with the Gold Coast. Just being a Queenslander, I know they do. I know they still bring it up. I don't agree with it. I think he's healed those wounds with his incredible performance for Origin. I just think it would be a bit of a poetic way to go, okay, the Gold Coast things didn't work out, but I'm coming to help this other new club that's in Queensland. It's just an extra tick on his kind of resume to a degree. Now, there are other clubs. Another one that I think couldn't hurt would be the North Queensland Cowboys. I look at that and I go, is Duffy ready right now? Yeah, maybe-ish. Could he excel dramatically under DCE for a year or two? I think he could learn, if you want the best version of Duffy, learning from DCE could be that. I think him and Dearden would be a good combination. It's just a matter of whether Duffy would be willing to sit, in reserve grade for another year or two, which he may not be. But I do think there is some argument to DCE at the Cowboys. Thoughts?
I'd be hesitant if I was DCE. I don't know. I'm just getting weird vibes.
Okay.
Out of there personally.
Oh, with everything going on.
Just everything going. And you know what? Like right now, the Dolphins are 0-3. They're not a great spot. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the Dolphins are a little bit more stable at the moment.
With coaching and everything like that. Yeah, interesting. Now, you've also got the Eels. I know it's completely opposite to what they are going for right now. They're in a bit of a rebuild. However, you could go Mitchell Moses DC in the halves. I know it's a bit left field, so don't go, it's fucking dumb as ever. I'm just going through teams, guys. I'm not saying you should end up there. Is there a young half at that club? Sorry, a young six at that club that could really learn from DCE and Moses? Maybe, I don't know. So just throwing it out there.
Just Canterbury have a look. Last 2 years of his contract. They had a look at Pappy last year, reportedly. Didn't end up going there. I've said for a year now, I think if Canterbury want to win a comp, they need to get a gun fullback or a gun halfback. Neither come up very often. Halfbacks come up even less. They've got Leo Thompson arriving there next year. It's going to be a very good pack. Could DCE potentially be the guy?
You know what?
There?
When you first said it, I was like, that's silly because they had Moses, a couple of years ago. However, you put DCE into the side with all the recruits next year, they all of a sudden could become a premiership that fucking year.
If Canterbury line him up and you get Matt Burton with him and that back line they've got, that forward pack, when you add Leo Thompson, I mean, the forward pack's competing with every team in the competition now. You add in Leo Thompson, plus you get a halfback that'll actually kick them into good spots.
And also Mitch Wood, who seems to be their long-term option, gets a couple of years under DCE. By the time he retires, Mitch Wood steps into that role. I know it sucks for Sexton. I think Sexton deserves an opportunity, but however, sometimes footy is just footy.
It sucks. It's a cutthroat game. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like it's how it plays out. I mean,
Don't
DCE's
mind that
leading Manly
shout.
because it's a cutthroat game. That's how it works.
It's not a bad shout because if it was anyone less than DCE, you'd go, it's not worth it. Stick to the plan. The plan is 2028 or so that we're trying to push for a premiership. But because it's DCE, you go, holy shit, we could be a premiership threat in 2026.
There's a handful of players in the competition that you divert plans. I think DCE is one of them.
What do you reckon, Matty?
I reckon, just going back to Sexton, I reckon there's 4 or 5 clubs that would eat him up instantly anyway.
He'd be fine.
He'd be sweet. I didn't think of the Bulldogs, and as soon as you said it, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I reckon if they could get DC, that would be absolutely perfect. I'm actually shocked you haven't mentioned the Titans, because that's literally who he backflipped on. Des Hasler's up there, who was at his wedding last year. I know they've got they've got $1 million 5/8, but
Can I be honest with the Titans thing?
Yeah.
Their inability to handle halves, I just get worried with it.
Oh, mate, if you're DCE, surely you just go, it's probably just one place that's not for me.
Yeah, and the whole history of it all.
The history. And I mean, credit to the Titans. They've been ballsy. They've come out and said, we're leaning into this.
Yeah.
I think you do just
I
lean
think you
into
stick
it,
with
see
it,
what happens.
yeah.
Just on Canterbury as well, I love him as a footballer. I personally don't think Matt Burton's ready to be the guy in a team yet. I think he's still a few years away, and I think the DCE could be the perfect guy to get him prepared to really be the face. You got to remember with Matt Burton, what is he, 24, 25?
Relatively young still.
He's young. Playing centre 3 years ago. He was Dally M centre 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He's now the main ball player at a club. I think DCE would be such good. Imagine like the amount of times with Manly that they have a shit set that turns into a brilliant set because of DCE's kicking game. Put Canterbury's kick chase, their grit, all that stuff. They become a top 4 side for me if DCE walks in there.
Him and Burton, that's a problem.
Mate, it's an enormous problem. And you look at Canterbury right now.
What about their boot? Both those blokes just smacking it down the field. You'd just be in your corner all day.
I love
it, Guru.
I don't have to give Phil Gould any tips, but I'm sure he'd be considering it. I would be.
He watches a potty, so I'm sure he'll.
No doubt.
Gus sat next to him last night on the show. Surely his mind was ticking over.
Oh, mate, his mind was ticking over bloody as soon as the ink was dry on that headline, he was ticking over. Now, I've got to say it. Maybe it's because got a soft spot in my heart for him. And I know it's a very small chance, but what about the Waz? Get him over there. I know it's so small. It's like, move to New Zealand at the end of his career, but I mean, you chuck him in at 7. You chuck Metcalf outside him. I know. I'm just saying. I just got to throw it out there.
Yeah, it's worth throwing out there.
Let's remove the fact he would have to move to New Zealand and just imagine they're in an Australian club.
Like top 30 squad, I love it. I love it. It's just the New Zealand thing. It is a big move for any person to make.
Yeah, it's with 4 young children, I believe.
Yeah,
DCE.
I know.
It's
I
just-
know.
And I get, if you take that out, if you put the Warriors in Canterbury, for example, different conversation. But
Like, imagine that forward pack like Barnett, Fish, with that he could what he could work with there. He'd fucking tear teams apart. Put Metcalf at 6. They would just be like Metcalf with him. Could you imagine how much he could teach Metcalf? Be fucking electric. As I said, I know it's a 0.0001 chance, but I just had to mention it. In regards to other teams, you've got, I think our Broncos. Actually, no, our Broncos could get him for 550. Chuck Honey at 9. Yeah, look, hang on a sec. Let's just pump the brakes here, boys. Come on. Hunt goes to 9. We get DCE for 300. That's about market value at the moment. I mean, bloody no one wanted him. He didn't even get a formal offer. We chuck him at 6, Reynolds at 7, and we have a spine of Walsh, DCE, Reynolds, and Hunt. What do you reckon?
no. What about
Dragons.
Flano's been in that system the last few years. He's now at the Dragons. They have 2 halfbacks who are good for what you pay them. Neither of them are stars. They've obviously got Atkinson arriving next year.
You could go him and Atkinson. I know he's probably not going to drop his Kyle, but you could go him and Atkinson.
I mean, if he's in the winning comps business, he might. If you
Yeah.
get an opportunity to get a DCE, as I said, sometimes guys present themselves that you derail things for. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
The
I don't mind
Flano
it.
connection wasn't there. I probably wouldn't throw it up there.
Yeah.
But I think it is worth considering.
Yep, I don't mind it at all. I mean, that's the crazy thing is every single. Actually, sorry, I forgot to speak about this. You know what does alarm me with Manly though? The fact that they've only got 650, 700K in their cap set aside for a 7 next year. Like, surely you always keep $1 million aside for your 7. Anyway, that's just a by the by. But yeah, in regards to what's crazy is every single one of these clubs have $1 million probably sitting there ready to go to pull the trigger to get DCE. So not only because like people try to say DCE is money hungry, and look, yes, did he get that long-term deal? Yes, was there dramas at the start of it in regards to the long-term deal? I get it for sure. However, DCE currently, I think he's on about 8 or 900K. If I am pretty confident if they had said, here's your 2-year deal, he would have taken 750. So like he can get $1 million out of it. Like he was willing to take, I believe he'd be willing to take unders to stay at the Manly Seagulls if they were to offer him a 2-year deal. And so it's crazy to think that Manly played this game of chicken with a bloke. Look at all the clubs we're going through where we know they have $1 million ready to go to get him. Just a point I'll bring up.
I think it's a long shot. I think their salary cap wouldn't be able to make it work. But Wayne Bennett's probably going to be coaching a new franchise in 2 years' time. South Sydney, they've got a 2-year window. They've got Jamie Humphries there, who's done well. Wayne's obviously, coached the 2020 Origin team with DCE. Is there a world where Souths go, fuck, we've got 2 years left of Cody Walker. Do we jink our salary cap to just get DCE in the building for 2 years and have a crack with Wayne?
And you just go, look, Humphries and Mamazellis share the 9 role for a year or 2. You're still playing in a role.
I think Jamie Humphries has been great at 7. I probably do think he would be a better 9 still than he is halfback. Once again, I've got no idea what your cap would look like, Matty, whatsoever, but you have lost quite a few players over the last year or two.
They have re-signed a lot as well.
Yeah.
I think they are pretty locked up, South. I absolutely take him in a heartbeat, but yeah, I don't know how much South have to play with.
That's the insane thing. There is not a single team, essentially, other than like your top dog sides that fans are like, nah, I wouldn't take DC. Like everyone's like, I'll take him.
Yeah,
I'll take him. The South one's interesting. So I think your front runners would. Look, the Bulldog shout's a really good one. It's a really good one because of that unique thing where he's like one of very few players that would make them a premiership threat immediately. I'm assuming they've got the money. Who else we got here?
I'm not an accountant, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be able to afford him. But imagine if Newcastle could get him, and then you pair him with Brown, put Brown at 6, and then you got Ponga. Then suddenly they look all right.
Mate, they don't have the money, but that's a fucking great shout, Matty. Could you imagine him, Brown and Ponga? They would tear teams to shreds. But they wouldn't be able to go 1.4, 1.3. And, I think like with that situation, DC is probably saying, look, if I'm going to go to Newey, I want $1 million. Like, I don't think he's going to Newey for unders. I think Manly probably Manly are the only team that he's going to go, look, I'll take unders to stay. But yeah, it's not a bad shout.
Just looking at, other clubs as potential landing spots, and I don't think there's too many left. I was just thinking, like, the Raiders, they've obviously got Sanders down there. Jamal Fogarty's come out and said he's willing to test himself at the market. Like, the only way I
puts pressure on Fogarty.
Well, I wonder if maybe Manly's because I've been thinking the last 24 hours, who the fuck what are they going to do here without moving guys? They're half, but they can bring in Fogarty. I think it'd be a really nice fit for them
because he wouldn't break the bank.
Wouldn't break the bank. He'd do a job. He's got a great kicking game. It'd allow you to leave Luke Brooks at 5'8". I haven't heard anything about it whatsoever. I just wonder if maybe he's someone they've identified. But
well, they did allude to. The CEO alluded to there's plans in place at the moment, but he can't get into it. It's fuck. Again, I go back to, I would have, like, somehow, if you could just put me on the call, all the calls that happened when that all went down, it'd be like a movie. Just back and forth. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah. Shit. On top of that, I'd love to go back to the call that was happening 2 weeks ago when they thought, no, we've got this under control.
Yeah, it's all sorted.
This will be sweet.
Yeah.
We've done this a million times before.
Yeah.
This is how the NRL club land works. And then DCE has just thrown an atomic bomb in the middle of it.
Oof. I tell you what, with Fogarty, the fact that he's willing to go open to test the market, so he must be on bugger all the Raiders right now. Yeah, do the Raiders try to use DCE as a bit of a bargaining chip of like, well, we can throw that money at him? I think Raiders, I just don't know whether, it's kind of like the Warriors to a degree. I just don't know whether he'd move down there with his family.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But you just never know. Like, that's the thing. Did I think that he'd be on 100% footy? Bloody talking about all this kind of stuff. You just don't know.
I think there's more chance that Manly have identified maybe Fogarty as the guy rather than DCE goes to Canberra.
Yeah, okay.
That was just my line of thinking because it still puzzles me that when many would argue their premiership window is open right now, they're going to move Brooks to 7 and Turbo to a new position.
Yeah, and that's what's like a bit strange about the whole situation. On one hand, we're talking about we can move players in positions, but then on the other hand, you're saying you've got all these plans. It's like, well, what is the plan? Like, it's not, you can't have two plans. It's got to be one of the, otherwise that's bad planning. Like, if you're sitting there going, oh, we might do this or we might do that, that's almost like, well, you're not convinced of, you should have a main plan and then a backup plan. And if your backup plan is we can move players, then I'll understand, yeah, sweet. But, it's not a bad shout in regards to Fogarty. Yeah, so actually on the flip side, I said to put pressure on Fogarty. This is actually music to Fogarty's ears right now. Because all of a sudden there's a player, he could, they probably could get him for, what do you reckon, 5, 6? Maybe even a little bit more, but I reckon probably 5,
a little
6.
bit more, I reckon. But
I think that he would be happy to land at a club for 500-600K over a 2 year deal.
I think, similar players are just holding more and more power now. I think Fogarty would look at Manly and go, you need a 7.
Yeah.
I'm the only one available.
I got to say, Fogarty's career, what a testament to just hanging in there. Like, he's a regular first grader now, but people forget, like, he was playing bloody Q Cup till he was like 26, 27 or something like that. So it's a bloody good journey. So I think the ones that most make sense, I think your Bulldog shout's an incredible shout. Very, very makes a lot of sense in regards to if they're looking to win a premiership. I think the front runners now would be Roosters, Dolphins, though, I reckon. Yeah. And I reckon, if I'm a betting man, I think he lands at the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think he lands at the Dolphins too. But I think Canterbury are in a spot now where they need to look around their roster and look around the room and go, okay, like, this could be the moment.
Yeah.
This could be the moment where we actually... And to win comps, you have to make a splash.
Because it's a good point you make, Roo, because, yes, they have good young guns coming through, but you just don't know what they're going to turn out like. Whereas DCE is on the market right now. You know he's good enough to win a premiership. And also, the timing fits perfectly with that young fella coming through, because by the time DCE retires, or not even retires, let's say he continues playing, but you can still just be like, mate, it's a 2-year deal. Come to the club at the end of the 2 years. Mitch Wood comes in, or Sexton, stays, or whoever does. Yeah, it's not a bad shout, and it might truly be one of those sliding doors moments of, it could almost be not the same, but similar-ish to the Cooper Cronk moment for the Roosters of, look, we're about a top 6 side right now. We could land a guy that makes us a top tier side, because that was the Roosters' problem. They just couldn't take that next step. And granted, I don't think the Bulldogs are that far along, but I think that
I also think the Bulldogs are probably further along than what they expected themselves to be. Like, 2 years ago, that club was an absolute clusterfuck. It was you couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel there. Within 2 years, like even have a look at this season, like they're 3-0. I don't think they've played great footy yet.
No, they definitely haven't. They've won on pure defence. I know they've leaked some
All
points.
they won is on defence.
Yeah, but really just good defence.
They've been clunky as all hell, and they're 3-0. Like, if you take that start, put it in last year where they started disastrous, they're a top 4 team all of a sudden.
You know what's crazy is like the Bulldogs have come so far. They're 3-0, and we're just like, meh.
Yeah, so true.
Like, mate, the Bulldogs 3-0. People would be fucking cheering in the streets if that was the case a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's a bloody good shout. Look, I want Dolphins. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. If he goes to Bulldogs, I'll be fucking stoked in regard. I'll get on that hype train for sure. The Queenslander in me though, it wants the Dolphins. It wants him with Katoa, ready boy, back there helping a club rebuild. Man, what a 24 hours in rugby league.
Mate, I also think if you're Canterbury, like you are signing a champion halfback, which is great. I think now you're also signing a guy who's been comfortable for 10 years being a club legend. He's been treated like shit. He's going to be so hungry heading into next season.
Yeah, it's a good point to prove him wrong. Like it almost like the Brady situation.
And like DCE, he's a nice guy, but like he's a competitor.
Oh, mate.
He always has been.
100%.
Like all these guys are, but DCE in particular, like the things he's done when people have doubted him in Origin has just been, it's broken my heart for the last 6 years. Like, to see him go at Canterbury, I think he'd just fit in with the culture so well there. And he'd just be, at the moment, Canterbury are gritty. They'll fight for every bone. If he can just add that little touch of class.
He's a cream on top.
Just a cream on top. Just those little key moments where he gets the kicking game perfectly and he just picks the right moments. And it's funny, you go back to, the finals last year, Canterbury plays Manly. I thought Canterbury were the better side. But simply because Manly had DCE, they win that game of football.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And it's what separates sides.
Yep, it's a great point. Mate, are you talking yourself into doggies?
I am actually. I hadn't thought about it until I sat down here. I want it to be the Dolphins. I want him to go to the Dolphins. I think for Katoa, he would be fantastic. I think the Dolphins, without getting into all this again, I think they've been incredibly unlucky in their first 3 years, how a lot of shit has played out for them. Tom Flegler still can't get on the field. Like, Tom Gilbert's only just into his, 7th game for the Dolphins or something. Like, I just think he would be so good and such a good fit up there to get the Queensland captain at the Dolphins that they could start to get some momentum after Wayne. But the idea of the streets of Belmore filled every weekend because they've got their halfback, they've got their main guy, Connor Tracy, can stay at fullback and do a job. It's very appealing.
I will say, from a Dolphins and a rugby league perspective, just finally to get a win. I know they got the win of Wayne Bennett, I get it, but they just haven't got that big fish yet. It would be good for them, and the Queensland captain, all that stuff. So, okay. So Bulldogs, Roosters, Dolphins. What do you reckon, Matty? Before you end this,
I want Bulldogs.
You want Bulldogs?
I want Bulldogs.
Wow.
I think. Look, no offense, Dolphins, but Bulldogs are I grew up watching them. I think when the Bulldogs are going well, the comp's going well. I've no affiliation with the Dogs, but how good was it last year? I just think they've been starved of success for so long. They deserve someone like this to come to their club, and I would be stoked if he goes to Dogs. However, my gut feeling is he will go to the Dolphins.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This episode brought to you by KO. Make sure you can't miss KO. I mean, all of the content around this will be on KO. You can watch NRL 360. You can watch all the news. It's all on KO. You can't miss. It's also brought to you by Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. Massive thank you as always to Sportsbet. And also, hungriest player this week is Garrick. You get $7 off Asian food. Grab some grumpy coffee, join the Bloke Club, go on the draw to win a Mazda BT50. Give the great Gurino a follow on Instagram. Give him a follow. Got a brand new podcast with the great Jamie Soward. Going to be interesting to hear his thoughts as a ball player.
Mate, he called me last night at about 8:04 p.m. and he was ready to go. He's coming off the back fence.
He loves it, Sowie.
He loves it.
Mate, he loves rugby league. And he's going to get a really interesting insight because he was at the Dragons, went late to the Penrith Panthers. So, can't wait to listen to that. Guys, make sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And as usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.